Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel, and this is your tip of the week. Are you overwhelmed by all of your presser feet, especially if you're new? Well, even I as myself, experienced, been sewing for 60 years, get a little intimidated by some of my presser feet. Not all presser feet are good for every single step. So we're going to take an overview look at some of these. You will see there's some, now I don't have all my feet out because I also have specialty feet I purchase separately from my sewing machine. But these are ones that you probably have for your machine that look very similar. Now this is a variety of straight stitch presser feet. They are different a little bit, but they all do a straight stitch, but some are designed for a certain type of stretch stitch. And now you'll notice that there's a single hole where the needle goes through on all of them. When you're using these, you need to use your throat plate that has a single hole right there. If you try to use a throat plate that has a wider hole, your fabric probably is going to jam and get shoved down into that throat plate. Now these are presser feet that have a really wide opening. They're usually used for decorative stitching of some type, zigzag, satin stitch, and other types of stitching. Now this one here is a zipper foot, and they can come in a variety of widths. I have one that's really wide. I also have another one on another machine that I have that's really narrow. Now this is a walking presser foot for quilting stitches, decorative stitching on top of a quilt when you're using cotton batting and several layers of fabric. It helps to feed your fabric, the multiple layers of fabric, evenly through your machine. Your fabric will probably not stitch using this, or very, very little, and your stitches will be even, and you will not have any pin tucks. If you try to do quilting stitches using a regular presser foot like a straight stitch one, you will get puckering on your fabric, and your fabric will stretch. You need to have a throat plate on for these stitches that is wide, so it can do a zigzag. It's stitches where they go side to side. You need the wide opening. If you try to use the other presser feet with a single hole, your needle is going to break the first time that needle goes down. So always check to make sure you have the correct throat plate on. Now we're going to look at the back of the presser feet, and these are the ones that are designed for straight stitching of a variety of types. Now here's the hole, and you'll notice on some of these they have just a tiny little groove back here behind the hole. This one has a little bit longer groove. That's because in some of the computerized sewing machines, you might have a stitch, it's a quilting stitch that's used, that it does a straight stitch, but it goes back and forth in place 2 or 3 times, then moves forward. This little groove is so that this presser foot will slide over that stitch. Now, here's the back of the presser feet that do the side-to-side stitching, your decorative stitching. You'll notice that there's grooves back here. Now let's go to the next one. This one has a really long groove. This is the open toe one. So I use this one a lot for doing the satin stitch. Now your zipper foot does not have a groove. It's not designed to go over any heavy stitching. Then you go over to this other decorative stitch. It has a very wide groove, but over here on this edging one, it just has a really narrow groove. There again is designed for specific stitches. And then you have the buttonhole one. Its groove is a little bit wider than the others, but not as wide as many of the others. If you are trying to use the straight stitch presser feet on some of these other stitches, it's not going to move smoothly over it. Or when you're doing some of this other decorative stitching, you still need to make sure you're using the correct one. Your stitches may not be even. You may suddenly have it to where stitches are done too many in place and you have this big lump and everything jams up. So make sure you check to make sure you're using the correct presser foot. On your computerized sewing machines, every time you select a stitch on the computer screen, it's going to tell you what presser foot you need to use. Now don't think, well, I've got this really wide open area, I can use the same one for everything. No, you can't. Your stitches will not be as nice. So look at that screen. If you do not have a computerized sewing machine, you have a mechanical, in your user's manual, it's going to tell you about your presser feet and which one is used for a particular stitch. Because we're getting into the fall holiday season and I've been working on Christmas pillows, I've been having problems with a particular thread. I was trying to use metallic thread like you see on here. It's a very shiny, glittery looking thread. You can also get it in silver and other colors that are metallic. Now, about 25 years ago, I was working on a quilt in which I was trying to use metallic thread, and it was a nightmare. I managed to finish it, but the stitching didn't look very good, and the thread was constantly getting knotted up and constantly breaking. So now I decided 25 years later, I'm going to learn how to use this metallic thread. And it was a nightmare from day one. So I had to do a lot of research. I talked to a lot of people, looked at a lot of websites, and this is what I finally came up with. Number one, you need to use a good quality metallic thread. You can't get cheap with this stuff, so look for a good one. This happens to be Superior thread. It's one of the more popular high quality threads. And by the way, the company Superior is not very far from where I live. I have to drive about 45 minutes to get to it. It's located in St. George, Utah. So a lot of the quilt fabric stores use Superior thread because it's right there. I also discovered you need to put a net over it. And these come with a lot of your sewing machines. They throw a few of these nets. And you also need to use a particular type of thread stand. I have thread stands built into my sewing machines that go up real high on all of them. And because I swear by them, they really work. But it wasn't working with this metallic thread, and I could not figure out what was wrong. So what I discovered was that it needs to be fed through several holes before it actually goes into your machine. So also on here, there's a couple of little holes right here. This metal device here that holds the thread can be switched, and it can lay horizontal or vertical as I have it now. For this particular thread, I put it up vertical. So once you've got it on here, the thread, then you need to put it up through a thread hole up here at the very, very top. Okay? Then once you get it through this hole up at the top, it's going to go up through this one. And you'll notice that this wire thing, it just kind of goes all over the place. This helps to prevent the thread from tangling and knotting up. So once you've got it on here, you place it next to your sewing machine, and then you thread it into your sewing machine. Well, then I put an embroidery needle on the machine, and it didn't work. The thread was breaking every time the needle went down. It just would break. Or the stitches would be incredibly uneven. I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. So I was talking to someone in a quilt fabric store, and they said you need to use top stitch needles. And this is the brand I was using. Remember, in St. George, Utah, the Superior company is very, very popular. So I'm using the titanium coated top stitch needles, size 90-14. Now, once I got this problem solved, I discovered things still didn't look right. What's wrong? Then I found out you need specialty bobbin thread, not just your typical Coats and Clarks or any other type of thread that you normally would use when you're stitching. So it has to be, it was recommended 90 to 100 weight, but some places said 80. So I went and I bought these. Again, I believe they're from Superior, and they only come pre-wound. You will see bobbin or thread listed out there as bobbin thread, but it's only 60 weight that comes on a large spool. At this point in time, everyone I talked to said they haven't been able to find it on the large spools. Now you can get a smaller pack of these pre-wound. I bought the larger pack because I know I can use it even on my embroidery machine, because I also found out I should be using this on my embroidery machine, and I did not know that. Goes to show you I don't know everything. So in order to be successful with working with metallic thread, buy a good quality metallic thread, get the proper thread feeding system, use the correct needles, and the bobbin thread. So what I suggest to you, that you write it down for future reference. And many of you, if you've been following me for a while, you are aware of my stitching notes notebook. And I keep information like this in it because maybe I won't be sewing with metallic thread for another 5 years and I want to do it again. I've at least got that information. And if you're interested in learning how to set this notebook up, it's in one of my tips of the week, episode number 10, and that link will be listed below your YouTube screen. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned something new. Remember, don't forget to read your user's manual. Take one page every other day and read through it and study it a little bit. Even I, who's been sewing for many years, will still open up that user's manual and find something I didn't know. So it's really good information. They wouldn't give it to you unless they thought it was going to be helpful. Now, if you're interested in other tips of the week, check below your YouTube screen in the description section. Just scroll down, click on Show More or the down arrow, and it will expand open and you will see the links. Now, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl. This is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.